Billy Joe Saunders picks up the WBO World Super Middleweight title with a 12-round UD over Shefat Isufi. Now, Billy Joe, this is the first meaningful fight that Billy Joe has had since he fought David Lemieux in Canada towards the end of 2017. He did have a fight there on the Warrington Frampton undercard against Charles Ndamu, but that was a kind of an irrelevant just kind of fight essentially because it didn't mean anything. It wasn't really for anything. And this was his first meaningful fight since the Lemieux fight. Now, Billy Joe looked sharp for the first 5 rounds. He looked very sharp. Isufi was not really throwing at him, I think, because we know Billy Joe is not a devastating puncher, but he's very accurate. I'm sure his shots don't tickle. And, he was razor sharp early on. He was finding counters. He was slipping with shots. Isufi is very slow-handed, very slow feet. Excuse me. And he looked almost tailor-made for Billy Joe, at least for the first 5 rounds. Going into the 6th round, Billy Joe was caught with a right hand, appeared to hit him just on top of the head, and his legs did a silly dance. His legs, I'm not going to say he was badly hurt, but he definitely felt it. And for the rest of that round, he didn't really do anything. He just got on his bike, circled the ring, and I think in the 6th round was the only round I could say Isufi won, and Billy Joe didn't do anything. So he was definitely buzzed a little bit from that shot anyway. It was much the same throughout. Billy Joe using his superior boxing skills, jabbing, his superior footwork, quicker hands, quicker feet, just the all-round better athlete, all-round better boxer. Isufi, although he's ranked number 1 at the WBO, he's not, I wouldn't necessarily put him at world level. Let's just put it like that. I'll say fringe world level. You know the way these rankings can be. It is a win for Billy Joe. He's a 2-weight world champion now. Personally, I feel that Billy Joe should drop back down to middleweight. I think middleweight is where Billy Joe will be most comfy, and I think it's where he does his best work. I think that super middleweight, you can get away with it against guys like Isufi, but when you're looking at, we'll say, the Callum Smiths, the Gilberto Ramirez, the Jesse Harts, who else, Benavidez, when you're looking at them guys who are just so much naturally bigger and they hit much, much, much harder, it might be difficult for Billy Joe to compete. Now, I definitely think, because I haven't heard the post-fight interviews, so I definitely wouldn't at all be surprised if Canelo's name is getting mentioned, and I wouldn't be surprised if Canelo is thinking, I wouldn't mind taking on Billy Joe, purely because the WBO Super Middleweight World title, it's a legit world title. It would really solidify Canelo's claim to be a 3-division world champion. He has the WBA regular world title at Super Middleweight, but we all know that the WBA regular title, it is what it is. If he fought Billy Joe and beat Billy Joe, that's a legitimate world title. He's a legitimate 3-weight world champion. Do I see that fight happening? I would say at this stage I would more than likely see Canelo going down the Golovkin route for having a trilogy, but I wouldn't at all be surprised if Canelo does target the Billy Joe fight. Would we want to see Chris Eubank Jr. versus Billy Joe Saunders? Chris Eubank Jr. constantly saying, he's the IBO world champion, which is not a legit world title. Would you want to see a rematch? I've always felt that both fighters in the first fight weren't at their best. I think Eubank Jr. wasn't at his best mentally and Billy Joe wasn't at his best physically. I think you throw them together now, it'd still be an interesting fight. I'd still favour Billy Joe to beat Eubank Jr., to be 100% honest. But be an interesting fight. This was a good performance from Billy Joe. In spots, the ring rust showed. And I think the fact that he's not naturally a super middleweight might be an issue. But, we have to see what he does next. Personally, if I was in charge of Billy Joe, I'd like him to go back down to middleweight. But it'd be interesting to see what he wants to do at super middleweight. There are fights to be had, as I said, against the likes of a Chris Eubank Jr. and possibly Canelo. Even Golovkin, if he wants to move up to 168. So, those are my thoughts on this. Let me know what you guys think down below. This has been a good night of boxing. Josh Taylor obviously won a world title. I didn't see enough of that fight to be able to do a post-fight review of it. So, I'm not going to do a post-fight review of Josh Taylor, but congratulations to him on winning a world title. And we have Deontay Wilder later on this evening. That'll either be early this morning or tomorrow morning, kind of 9 or 10 at some stage. Depends if I stay up for it or not. But let me know what you guys think down below with the Billy Joe. Do you think you should stay at super middleweight? Do you think you should drop back down to middleweight? How did you feel this fight went? Were you impressed? Did you see some vulnerabilities there? Let me know down in the comment section. As always, please like the video if you're new. If you're new to the channel, hit subscribe. And as always, I will talk to you after.